Fillmore eased into his swivel chair, fingertips brushing the cold metal of the vintage broadcast console. The red on-air bulb above him buzzed like a distant alarm. Tonight's live news interview was about identical twins who had captivated viewers worldwide, Emma and Ella Carter, after recounting their mother's terrifying carjacking in Steve Irwin Way. He drew in a steady breath and adjusted the microphone, mist curling from his lips in the chilly press room air. His pen hovered above a blank page in his leather notebook. At 2:44 a.m., he believed, every word he wrote bent reality in subtle, horrifying ways. He scrawled the details: twins Bridget and Paula Powers of Landsborough, their uncanny synchronicity on 7 News Queensland's broadcast on April 21st, 2025. Almost immediately, the ancient CRT monitor beside him crackled with static that sounded eerily like a whisper he couldn't quite place. Fillmore, good evening. I'm Fillmore, broadcasting from a press room where news becomes prophecy. He gestured to the twins seated across from him. Emma and Elle, dressed alike in muted tones, mirrored each other so perfectly it was as if two souls shared one body. Their viral news interview, where Emma finished Elle's sentences and they spoke in perfect unison, had broken view records just weeks ago. Their eyes were wide, searching his for answers he couldn't give. He wrote every word as if recording a spell. Behind him, the monitor's green-tinted globe pulsed, but when he turned, nothing appeared on the screen, only the twins' faces stared back. Phil shook off the chill racing down his spine. He reminded himself they were safe. No bullet had struck their mother, and Marcus Thrall, the suspect, had fled into the woods, leaving the family unharmed. Fillmore, Clara's bravery allowed you to escape. What did you see as you ran for cover? Emma, shadows that moved without wind. Elle, we heard her scream, even though she was silent in the bushes. The temperature in the bunker dropped so fast his breath formed clouds around his head. A distant engine roar rattled the shutters, identical to the stolen SUV's crash that night. Phil's heart skipped. He glanced at the station's old window panes, half expecting the vehicle to burst through. Instead, the roar faded into silence, leaving only the twins' mirrored expressions of shock. Fillmore. Then you saw a figure in the trees. No face, just a dark shape, bending like a broken limb. What did you feel?
Fear. And curiosity. Why would he let her go?
Phil scribbled rapidly, unheeding the static whisper rising again through the speakers. His pulse pounded. He reached for the camera feed on the console. The lens, responsible for every angle of this night's broadcast, flickered, revealing a pale form standing just beyond their frame, an impossible glimpse of a faceless apparition in a long, dark coat. It vanished the instant Phil leaned in, as if the camera had betrayed a secret no human eye was meant to see.
I'm always just behind you.
As he stepped away from the console, the final whisper echoed around him, promising that tonight's headlines would be lived, not just reported. At precisely 3:17 a.m., Clara jolted upright in bed, pulse jackhammering against her ribs. Her bedroom clock glowed like a watchful eye in the gloom, its minute hand frozen as if time itself held its breath.
Mommy, Mommy.
The voices were lilting, breathless, but both girls lay untouched beside her, their chests rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. Clara's throat went dry. She swung her legs over the side of the mattress, bare feet finding the cold floorboards with shocking clarity. Every instinct screamed that something was horribly wrong. She crept to the door, heart hammering. Beyond the threshold, dim moonlight pooled at the end of the hallway. Clara pressed her ear to the wall and listened.
She trusts us.
Emma? Elle?
Only silence answered. Clara crept forward, eyes darting to shadows that clung to every corner. The house felt alien, the familiar hum of the refrigerator gone, the wallpaper's muted floral patterns seeming to loom like watchful figures. At the foot of the stairs, she froze. Two small silhouettes stood side by side, heads bowed, their nightgown hems brushing the carpet. Even in the half-light, she recognized the girls' dark curls, yet their posture was too still, too precise. She forced herself onward. The front door, she realized, stood ajar for the first time since the carjacking, though Clara had locked it moments before bedtime. Rain-slicked leaves drifted inside, haloed in silver by the street lamp beyond. Clara's heart pounded so loudly she feared it would betray her location. "Clara, girls, come here! Voices, come find us!" Clara swallowed, panic and resolve warring inside her. She followed the twin figures down the stairs, each step creaking like a confession. At the bottom, the hallway mirror caught her eye. Her reflection froze in the glass until another figure emerged behind her, pale and uncanny, shoulders curved in a mocking imitation of her own stance. Its face was blank, featureless, yet Clara felt its gaze pierce her. She spun, breath catching, but nothing stood there. A sudden crash echoed from the twin girls' room. Clara rushed back up, tripping on the fourth step. She flung open their door, heart in her throat, only to find two neatly made beds, the quilts pulled up to the pillows as if the girls had never left. Emma's favorite stuffed koala lay tucked beside the left pillow, untouched. A cold dread coiled in Clara's stomach. She backed into the hallway, trembling. The whisper swelled into a chant. Voices. She trusts us. She trusts us. Marcus Thrall eased into the dimly lit lobby of the Lone Pine Motel, his heart pounding like a trapped bird's wing. He'd fled the media storm after the twins' viral news interview about their mother's daring carjacking rescue on Steve Irwin Way. Every reporter called him the marked man, though he'd never meant harm. Here, he thought, he might vanish into the shadows. He swiped the keycard at room 12 and stepped inside. The air smelled stale and musty. A single bare bulb cast long shapes on the faded carpet. He dropped his duffel on the bed and ran a hand through his hair. No cameras, no phones, just silence heavy as guilt. He fumbled for his mobile, praying for a message or a distraction. Instead, the screen blinked to life with a live video feed, himself entering the room. But the angle was impossible. The camera hovered near the ceiling, looking down at his every move, no visible lens or device in sight. Marcus stared, mouth dry. He tapped the feed. It refused to close.
They saw you.
His pulse spiked. A whisper crackled from the phone's speaker. They saw you. Marcus snapped the device shut, but the image remained etched on his eyelids. He backed into the bathroom, pressing the cold tile. Shadows clung to the doorway like dark guests. He unlocked the cabinet to hide the phone, then froze at the sound of soft breathing behind him. He spun around. Empty room. The mini-fridge hummed in the corner. A low breeze rustled through the closed window. No bellhop, no other guest. Yet the shadows shifted at the edge of his vision. Marcus swallowed hard and slipped the phone into his pocket. He needed fresh air. He needed proof this was not real. Voice, you're not alone. He crept to the door and cracked it open. The hallway lights buzzed overhead. He peered left, then right. No soul in sight. Footsteps echoed in the distance. He stepped out, and the door clicked shut behind him. Marcus yanked the handle. Locked. He slammed his fist against the wood. The lock held firm. Voice, every step you take. A quiet voice drifted down the hall, sounding like his own. You're not alone. Marcus froze. His skin prickled. He leaned against the wall, scanning the dim corridor. Peepholes emerged in the doors across from him, faint silver rings sliding into focus. Then they vanished, swallowed by the dull paint. Every door seemed alive, watching. He backed away, heart hammering. A speaker in the ceiling crackled to life. Every step you take. The voice was mechanical, every word trailing static. He pressed his back to the nearest door, phone in hand. His knuckles turned white. He whispered, show yourself. Voices, you can't hide. Emma and Ella woke to their mother's frantic voice blaring through the old television, even though its power cord lay unplugged on the floor. Clara, run, please, run now. Clara Carter's crackling plea rattled through the silent living room, sending the twins tumbling out of bed on shaking legs. The last time their mother's voice had reached them was during that viral news interview about her harrowing carjacking on Steve Irwin Way, a story that had held millions in its grip, and now her warning felt like a trap. Clara, get out of the house! They scrambled toward the screen, hearts pounding. The set's once blank screen flickered with static before resolving into Clara's terrified expression, eyes wide with a primal fear they had never seen before.
She tried to switch it off, but the ruined power strip clicked defiantly. The TV remained alive as if powered by something darker than electricity. Her hand shot to the disconnected cord, yanking it free, but the image held its ground.
Get out of the house!
Lightning flashed outside, carving sharp shadows across the front door, which stood wide open despite having been locked tight before bedtime. A gust of wind rattled the panes, scattering autumn leaves into the foyer.
Emma and Elle exchanged a terrified glance. The centuries-old laminate floorboards shifting underfoot like a living thing. They knew their mother had faced danger before, and she had survived. But this time her voice sounded as though she were trapped somewhere else, screaming instructions from within the walls themselves.
They bolted upright, racing down the hallway in their socks, every creak echoing ominously. They passed the mirror that usually reflected their matching nightgowns, and saw instead a distorted shape lingering just out of focus behind them.
Emma spun around, heart in her throat, but found only her twin's pale face and the hallway empty of human form.
The mirror cracked, spider webbing from top to bottom, though no blow had struck it. Voice, underneath. Find me underneath. Ella stumbled into the kitchen, throwing open cabinets in search of a phone. Her fingers closed around the landline handset, but when she lifted it, the cord stretched impossibly long, wrapping around her wrist like a serpent.
She yanked it free, letting it slam against the wall.
The receiver buzzed to life, static hissing with a familiar urgency. Voice, underneath. Find me underneath. The line went dead, leaving only the hum of expired fluorescent bulbs overhead. Elle stumbled into the kitchen, throwing open cabinets in search of a phone. Her fingers closed around the landline handset, But when she lifted it, the cord stretched impossibly long, wrapping around her wrist like a serpent. She yanked it free, letting it slam against the wall. The receiver buzzed to life, static hissing with a familiar urgency. Underneath, find me underneath. The line went dead, leaving only the hum of expired fluorescent bulbs overhead. Emma grabbed Ella's hand and they dashed toward the basement door, where Clara had installed a lock after the carjacking left her bruised but unbroken. The heavy metal deadbolt turned with a groan, and they pried the door open just as a second lightning flash illuminated the living room, revealing their mother's favorite shawl draped over a rocking chair that hadn't been used in decades. The fabric writhed as though filled with breath, shifting into the shape of Clara's outstretched arms, beckoning them closer. Voice, she will come back. Neither twin hesitated. They slipped down the narrow steps, each tread slick with condensation. In the dank basement, they found the single bare bulb swinging from a frayed cord, casting a sickly yellow glow on damp concrete walls. The twins huddled together at the foot of a narrow staircase cut into the stone where Clara had once hidden her emergency kit. Beneath the stairs, someone, or something, had scrawled words in the dust. Too late, Ellen. Mama would never write that. Elle swallowed hard. Emma nodded, fists clenched. She slid to her knees and brushed away the dust with trembling fingers. Underneath lay the remnants of a photograph, their mother's voice, so strong on the unplugged television, now whispered from behind them in the same chilling tone. Voice, she will come back. Ella swallowed hard. Ella VO. Mama would never write that. Emma nodded, fists clenched. She slid to her knees and brushed away the dust with trembling fingers. Underneath lay the remnants of a photograph, their mother's voice, so strong on the unplugged television, now whispered from behind them in the same chilling tone. Voice, VO, she will come back. Emma Carter's fingers froze on the attic floorboards as she lifted the photograph into the wavering beam of her flashlight. The image showed Clara Carter crouched beside the overturned SUV, rain streaking down the hood, her handkerchief clutched tight in trembling fingers. But behind her, in the deepest shadow, a pale face loomed, mouth stretched into a grin that had never appeared in any broadcast footage of that night. Her heart thundered. Ella stood beside her, breath ragged. Ella VO, Emma, where did you find that? Emma VO, under the floorboards. It was hidden under Dad's old bird rescue crates. She recalled the twins' non-profit, Twinnies Pelican and Seabird Rescue, Clara's passion project, mentored by the late Steve Irwin, now tainted by this horrifying frame. Her heart thundered. Ella stood beside her, breath ragged. Ella VO. Emma, where did you find that? Emma VO. Under the floorboards. It was hidden under Dad's old bird rescue crates. She recalled the twins' non-profit Twinnies Pelican and Seabird Rescue, Clara's passion project mentored by the late Steve Irwin, now tainted by this horrifying frame. They pressed closer. In every televised angle of Clara's confrontation with Bradley Towell, no lurking observer had appeared. Yet here, captured on glossy paper, was proof of something impossible. Emma VO. This wasn't in the news interview. They pressed closer. In every televised angle of Clara's confrontation with Bradley Towell, no lurking observer had appeared. Yet here, captured on glossy paper, was proof of something impossible.
This wasn't in the news interview.
Lightning flashed through a dusty attic window, illuminating black ink smears that pooled along the bottom edge of the photo. Emma's pulse raced as she noted the pattern, an intricate spiral that matched the occult symbol Grandpa had once drawn in his 1962 journal during his weeks of delirium. Legend said that symbol bound restless spirits, but here it bled like fresh blood.
It's like it's alive.
Ella reached out, brushing her thumb over the wet-looking ink. It's like it's alive. She jerked her hand back as the smear rippled, tendrils curling toward the light.
We have to show Mom.
They fled down the narrow staircase, Emma's flashlight beam bouncing against peeling wallpaper. Every creak echoed ominously as though the house itself whispered warnings. In the living room, Clara's old television sat face down, static crackling through the unplugged cords. Emma dared not touch it. She was too certain it would spring to life again. Clara stood by the fireplace, coat collar turned up against the draught. Her face, usually so strong, was pale and drawn. Emma held out the photograph.
Look,
I never saw that face. I never saw it.
is it following you?
I can still feel its eyes on me. After I ran into the bushes, I heard laughter in the woods, my own voice calling for help.
A sudden knock rattled the front door. 2 slow, deliberate thumps. Clara whirled around.
Who's there?
No answer. Emma and Ella exchanged a glance.
Don't go.
This thing, it wears a mask of me. It stole my face. It wanted to be free of the photograph.
The ink! It moved!
It's a trapped spirit, bound by that spiral. The photo is its prison, and now it's breaking out.
Twins Emma and Elle's chilling news interview about their mother's carjacking rescue on Steve Irwin Way became a living nightmare under Phil Moore's blood-red on-air glow during his follow-up broadcast on 7 News Queensland, April 21st, 2025. Phil sat alone in his abandoned 1980s press room, the CRT monitor flickering with static that sounded like distant whispers. His pen hovered above the typewriter, each keystroke destined to become reality at 3:17 a.m., when he would write their fate into existence. Tonight's final edition. He announced, voice calm yet taut with dread. He recited Clara Carter's bravery, how she faced armed suspect Marcus Thrall and lured him away, sending him fleeing into the woods without harm, according to the Queensland Police Report, 2025. The words felt hollow in the stale air, as if rehearsing history could change the ending. Behind him, the bulletin board held pinned photographs of Emma and Ella, printed from his own report. Their mirrored faces stared at him, accusing in the dim light. Phil swallowed hard, recalling his own daughter's laughter, lost 8 years ago in a house fire he'd failed to prevent, as documented in the Ashcroft Incident Report 2014. His guilt had first awakened his headline's synesthesia, the ability to see printed words twist into horrific prophecy. He flipped the page, revealing the next line. 5 marked survivors must assemble at the old school. The feed on the monitor glowed green, then revealed a live view of the deserted Ashcroft Elementary ruins. An image he had never filmed, but now watched unfold exactly as typed. A hallway door creaked open by itself, and in the darkness a shape emerged. Featureless, tall, coat trailing like a shadow. Phil's breath caught. They will become the sacrifice. He tried to stop, but his fingers moved of their own volition. The keys clattered as he typed the final words. And the final keystroke seals the pact. Outside, the press room's shutters rattled as if in answer, matching his racing heartbeat. The studio lights flickered. His reflection on the monitor lagged 3 seconds behind him, mouthing words he hadn't yet spoken. Each lagged syllable widened the gap between his will and destiny. He reached to adjust the lens, but the camera feed jerked and revealed a second shot. The faces of the twins standing motionless behind him, eyes unblinking. A distant engine roar rattled the shutters, identical to the stolen SUV's crash that had doomed Clara Carter to relive her terror. Phil's pulse thundered in his ears as the roar swelled, then cut off abruptly, leaving an echoing silence. We honor her courage tonight, knowing each syllable anchored the horror in place. Something in the darkness shifted, the walls groaned as if breathing. Phil's studio chair spun on its own axis, coming to rest facing the door. "Forgive me." His chest tightened. He dared not turn to see what entered. He closed his eyes and whispered before peering into the gloom. The overhead red bulb snapped off, plunging him into blackness speckled by the monitor's sickly green glow. From every shadowed corner came a chorus of static whispers. "Type it or die." Phil's throat constricted. He tried to read the next prompt, but the teleprompter flashed only one line. "Your story concludes tonight." He felt a weight around his ankles, as though unseen hands had anchored him. Panic surged. He tapped the desk, sending pens clattering. The typewriter beneath his fingers rattled to life, each type bar striking the paper with a metallic ring. He watched as the final sentence formed in his handwriting. "Fillmore becomes the story." Lightning lanced through the boarded-up window, illuminating the dust motes in the air like restless spirits. In that instant, Phil glimpsed the twins' faces on the monitor transform, tears streaming, mouths opening in silent screams. He stabbed at the carriage return and slammed the paper into place. An ear-splitting crack split the room. The world tilted. Phil staggered back, eyes wild, as the door burst open and the shape from the monitor stepped across the threshold. It wore his silhouette, hair greying at the temples, coattails fluttering, but its face was blank, featureless, a void he could not comprehend. The creature raised a hand and pointed at the typewriter. Phil understood too late. Each word he had typed had been a binding vow, a contract written in ink and blood. The final paragraph glowed silver on the page, and thus the author is claimed. The last light in the press room died. Silence swallowed him. Then came a single crystalline note, a child's laughter, soft and distant, echoing from the darkness. Phil's eyes fluttered shut as a cold breath brushed his neck and whispered, "We will always be watching." When he opened his eyes again, the press room was empty. The typewriter sat on the desk, the page missing as though consumed by the void. The on-air light remained off, but a small red dot pulsed on the monitor recording. In the silence, the press room phantom had vanished, leaving only the haunting promise that tomorrow's headlines would write themselves. Subscribe if you dare.